Welcome to Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara. One part small talk, all parts real talk. This is the part of the day when Ajit gets to know the people behind the job titles at Tag.
Hello, my name's Ajit Kara and I'm the Tag CEO for the Americas. And welcome to my podcast. I decided to do this podcast because many of you have heard me say that I believe that Tag's biggest asset is its people. And I wanted to get underneath what makes them tick. Why are they so fantastic? Today I've got Andrea Flanders as my guest. She's the general manager for our Canadian business. She's been with us for quite some time and I'm very much looking forward to speaking to Andrea. But as always, this podcast is produced by Kaylie Stansfield. Hey, Kaylie, how are you?
I'm well, Ajit. How are you doing today?
Not too bad at all. Although I'm a bit tongue-tied today. This could be an interesting podcast.
Oh, gosh, I look forward to it.
In the bloopers, I had trouble saying my name. I don't know why.
I'm looking forward to the bloopers too. Watch this space.
What's new with you this week, Kaylie?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I'm just getting used to seeing the festivities outside and looking forward to the end of the year.
Oh, this is a wonderful time of the year as it runs up. It's got cooler now and it's a fast pace up to Christmas, which is my favourite time of the year. Andrea, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Cheers. Have a little bit of sip of the wine. Let me know if you approve.
That's very nice. Yes, I do approve.
Good, because you do like your wine, don't you? Not that I should start with that, should I? But when I've been to Canada, you do have great taste in venues and wine selections.
Thank you. Yes, I do like wine, but I do like G&Ts more.
Well, in that case, we should go to this restaurant here that does these kind of Indian-themed cocktails. Yeah, so they'll do a gin and tonic, but it has spices and other things in there. It's actually very nice.
All right, I'm in.
So you're from Canada, then? Have you always been in Canada?
Yes, born and raised in Toronto.
Wow, I love Toronto. Wonderful city. Why do you like Toronto so much?
It's a great city. It's big. It's very diverse, multicultural. There's a good mix of green space, ravines, parks. You're on the water, on the lake. We've got our downtown core. Great food. Yeah. Naturally. Yes, yeah. And it was a great city to grow up in.
It was a big gap from when I used to go to Toronto, and then when we acquired your business, and I went back to Toronto, I was almost lost because the amount of buildings that had gone up by the waterfront and the sky, the sort of skyline has changed dramatically. Or was that in my imagination? I felt completely disorientated.
Yeah, you're bang on. They've really been developing it, and tons of condos have popped up. It's a growing city. We're running out of space for all the people.
But they seem to have done it well because they incorporate the restaurants and the food and the living, don't they? So they seem to have done the balance right.
Yeah.
What's your kind of earliest memories of being in Canada or in Toronto?
Earliest memories?
Traveling?
Yeah. I have memories, a few memories that pop up from when I was young. I think my dad trying to get me into every sport imaginable. I think I was probably 3.5. And it's funny because I don't know if this is a true memory or if it's from seeing photos or videotapes, but he got me tennis racket, basketball, soccer ball, baseball, rollerblades, football, you name it, trying to get me to pick everything up. Was
it just you, or was a sister, brother?
I have a younger sister.
There you go,
yeah,
two
so
sisters.
The two of us. Yeah. Yeah, so probably I can picture that in the backyard and in our basement, but...
Well, that's probably carried on because you look after, you're quite sporty still, aren't you? You like to do lots of things.
I am fairly active, but it's funny. He tried to get me into all of that when I was young, and very little of it stuck for a very long time. And then it was probably around maybe my university days where I started to get a little bit more active into running. I picked tennis back up. Always loved to ski. So yeah, I love getting outside.
And you do the one thing that I hate.
Which is?
The running.
The running. Yes. Yeah.
So you did the half marathon in New York. Was it earlier this year or?
It was last December.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of time did you do?
My time. I got in just under 2 hours,
That's
which
crazy.
was a personal best for me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
But no, well done.
Thank you.
And, talk to me about when you were younger again. So back to when you were traveling. What do you remember about traveling with your parents, and where did you go?
Growing up, we went to Florida here and there. My grandparents on my dad's side had a spot in Sarasota.
That's beautiful.
So I remember as a young child going with sometimes with my dad, the two of us, and we would go and visit. And I think I was probably around 3-ish at the time. So going back to your question around early memories, that sticks out in my mind. But yeah, I was pretty fortunate. We, over the summers, would try and get away out to the Laurentians area. Actually, is just outside of Montreal. Both my parents grew up in Montreal, so it's the cottage country, yes, as we call it in Toronto, or I don't know what you call it in the States. The Hamptons is probably the bougier cottage country of New York, but
it all works.
Yeah.
It all works.
Yeah.
It all works. That's
Yeah.
lovely. And when you were that child doing all these sports, everything, what did you actually want to be as a child? I mean, obviously you led into this world. You've only had a few jobs. You've been with this business for a long time, but what did you actually want to be when you were a child?
Well, when I was really little, I wanted to be a ballerina. Oh. Classic.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, I learned very quickly. I wasn't very good at it, so that went out the window. And then as I got a little bit older, I really wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think that was based on much other than there was a TV show at the time called Ally McBeal. I don't know if there are any Ally McBeal. Wow, I can't speak now. Ally McBeal fans in the room, but yeah, maybe it glorified what it was like to be a lawyer.
They made it look very exotic, didn't they? And
very fun. Yes.
The real world is, I never forget this terminology. A lawyer once said to me, you've got to put a cold towel over your head and review hundreds of pages of documents, and it's tedious.
Yes.
Did you ever go into it, or did you have any exposure to it, or did you tempt it?
Well, my dad was a lawyer for some time, so I think I got exposure to the less glamorous side of what it was like to work in law. And then in high school, I took some law classes. We had mock trials, so it was all fun and games.
How did you do?
Oh, I crushed it. So, I think I cheated by having some help from my dad. But,
So I think the whole point of this podcast is we reveal things about folks.
Yeah.
So does the commercial team know that you are that good? So I suspect they're going to be watching you a bit closer now, because you're probably reviewing our contracts before they are.
Yeah, I think Steve and I joke about that every once in a while, but I still rely on them quite heavily. I can certainly not consider myself a lawyer or an expert in the space. The legal jargon really gets me every time.
Yeah, but you have the basic understanding, which I think helps. But so if it wasn't a lawyer, then nothing. You just kind of drifted into this kind of world.
I had no idea. Yeah. Once I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer, I really had no idea. It wasn't until after I was about to graduate from university, I had a couple of people tell me that they thought I would be good in PR. I had no idea what PR was, but I looked into it. I thought, okay, this sounds fun. The only PR reference I really had was Samantha Jones from Sex and the City, and obviously that seemed glamorous too.
Yeah,
so I started out there.
There's a theme here. TV drives your strategy.
What does that say about me?
Yeah. No, look, I think you make a really good point, which I think applies to many of us, myself included, that you fall into something at the sort of right age, just as you're sort of coming out of college or about to start college. And then unless you're very determined you want to be something like a veterinarian or a doctor or a lawyer, we tend to fall into something. And not many of us then go out of that swim lane, going forward. It's just, I've thought about that a few times around how interesting it is that if my paths had gone a different way. You just fall into something and then you stick with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think about that a lot too.
Well, on that then, what do you think has been some of your challenges then, like your professional and personal challenges?
Yeah. Well, on the professional side, I think for me, joining the tag team, which originally was called the Hot Plate when I joined. Yeah. We were a startup, and then we changed our name to THP to be a bit more all-encompassing across industries outside of just food and beverage. And now part of part of TAG for the last few years. But I think for me, it was taking what I knew in a very traditional industry, figuring out a way to deliver that within the model that was so unique at the time within the industry. And then once we nailed that and we had a really great offering and continued to grow year over year, and of course, in joining TAG, I think one of the biggest challenges for me was in coming into this role during a global pandemic, integrating the businesses. There was a lot of big changes all happening at once, and there were a lot of learnings that came out of it, and I think a lot of bumps along the way, but so much good stuff at the same time. And I always find those are the moments where you really learn, grow, and just become better.
It's an old saying, but it's true in every life, in that, or in every walk of life, that when you're going through challenges, you don't realize it at the time, but you're definitely sharpening and getting better. That when you reflect back post it, you realize that you've actually did your best bit of work. You've learned so much. People tend to grow when there's some challenges and adversity ahead. And look, from observation, these are not about work, these calls, but you did a fantastic job in terms of filling the rather big shoes of when Amanda, who was the founder of the business, decided to go and do other things, and she's still a friend of both of ours, as we both know. But you did a fantastic job of filling that rather large shoes and working it differently within the TAG world, and that took a lot of courage. Did that courage come from the fact that you had an amazing childhood? Like, because I've spoken to you before, like you love your family. Mm-hmm. Have you got the pet yet? Because you wanted a dog last time we spoke.
Well, actually, I have an update on the dog front. Yeah. Okay. Our family got a dog.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, about a month ago. So I get to reap the benefits from that.
Without all the work.
without most of the work. So it worked out.
But did that you're very grounded and very level-headed, and you drive a kind of very motivating business in Canada. Where does that come from?
That's a good question. And I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to that. I think I'm someone who I try and take things in stride, and I can't say that I necessarily had a very challenging upbringing, that I overcame so many obstacles that it makes me who I am today. I think we all have those experiences throughout.
What I observe when I come is that the energy level in the team there is off the scale. You're surrounded by some incredibly good people, some of them being on the podcast. And it's always that can-do attitude around, if that doesn't work, let's do this, or let's pivot here. That kind of instant change of direction is what I sense that you drive from the team.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's your tennis, when you're instantly swapping hands and deciding which way to go.
We have a big can-do attitude and wanting to get stuff done, and focusing on the solution, not harping on the problem, and constant, I think, pivoting. It was something that we probably did a lot of even before it became such a popular term within the pandemic. And we've got the best team. Everyone is so passionate, so excited about what they do. We've got a very skilled team with different backgrounds.
I know you like traveling. Tell me about your best holidays and what have you explored?
Yeah. One of my favorite places is Italy. And I feel like that's probably a common answer among many, because it's just such a magical, spectacular place. And the food is to die for. I could just, I could eat pasta every single day, gelato twice a day, the wine, so actually, just the fresh ingredients. There's something about it. I don't know, the Mediterranean way of life. It's amazing.
We're going next year again. When we were in Europe, we used to go all the time, but my girls were much younger then. And they've requested this trip because they're obviously much older now, and they want to go specifically so they can drink down the coast of Italy and try all the different wines. So we're going next year for a... I don't know if it's a touring holiday because we've done that, but it's certainly a wineyard touring and food, pasta.
Sounds amazing. Yeah. Bring me with you.
Yeah, you can be my third child. Yeah, exactly. Apart from Italy, where else would you say is your highlight?
I think another highlight for me is probably when I got to visit Budapest.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, back, I guess that was 2015. My grandparents on my mom's side are from Hungary, and I grew up hearing there are so many stories about when they had lived there. So I finally got the chance to go and see it and
History's amazing.
really imagine and bring to life all of the things that they had shared with me. And it's a beautiful city. The food is also fantastic there as well.
Did you understand the history around it was Buddha and pest? There was two different. Yeah,
well,
across the
I
water.
learned that when I when I went. Yeah, I had no idea before that.
Exactly. There was just the river in the middle, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I loved it there. The history was amazing. It really was.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents are Holocaust survivors as
Oh,
well.
they really?
Yeah. So
That is amazing.
some of the stories that they had shared, it was pretty incredible to then go and see where it all happened. And yeah, it's something I'll always take with me.
I did go. I did cry as an adult when I went. I went to see Auschwitz in Bergamo. I don't think the scale and the cruelty that you're prepared for it. I certainly knew about the Holocaust and seen the pictures and read the books. And my first doctor when I was a young boy had the green numbers on his, and I just always wondered what that was. My dad told me, didn't really understand.
Yeah.
Then you go to actually see it, and you just think it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, I have an interesting story on that. My grandfather's younger brother was in Auschwitz. And many years later, when he was living in Montreal, he was in a bookstore and he picked up a book of photographs from the Holocaust, and he was flipping through the pages, and he ended up identifying himself in this book, but he didn't recognize himself. The only way he was able to identify that it was him was the tattoo of the number on his arm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're getting to a point now where there's very little, if anybody, left from that era.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the interviews, and they did good stuff. As they were getting to a certain age, you have to video and interview these people, because unless you've experienced it and lived through it and taped it and heard it, you can't really understand what folks went through. And I think you have to, because history has got a danger of repeating itself. And when enough time goes by where you forget, things can raise themselves up again. And I genuinely think we need to continue to spread the message and show the horrors of what that was about.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents actually, they documented, they wrote autobiographies so that we do have it captured somewhere. And I think I've heard some of the stories so many times over that it's etched in my brain. But it is pretty incredible when I think back on it. It doesn't feel possible that could have actually happened and that it was real. But it happened, and it happens elsewhere in the world.
It does, absolutely, on a different scale, but it absolutely goes on. And I said to my family that they should all go, and they said no, they didn't want to go. But I think it should be a compulsory school visit, for all kids around the world. Because if you see that and the scale of it, maybe it'll prevent anybody doing things in the future.
Yeah.
But anyway, how do we go down this dark turn?
Let's turn this around.
Talk about something that you've done that you've never done before.
Well, besides recording this podcast.
Besides that, yes.
Something that I did for the first time, it was almost a year ago. I got talked into seeing a psychic.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yay.
Which...
Oh, yes.
Kaylee's a fan.
I find the whole thing scary.
Oh,
Yeah.
My wife loves it, but I find it horrifyingly scary. So I'm very interested to know more.
I'm a total skeptic when it comes to stuff like that, because I just feel like there's a way of explaining all of it. I try and poke holes. But a trusted friend who's very credible highly recommended this psychic. And I thought, why not? I'll give it a try. Maybe it would be fun. And it was a crazy experience. I'll see if
Are you still
it comes true.
Are you still a skeptic?
Yeah, there's a part of me that is still a skeptic. However, at least one of the things that she predicted has come to fruition. And there were things that she knew about me right away, just from me walking in the door, that she picked up on. I don't know how you would know that about somebody. So it opened my mind to the fact that there's maybe something here, but I can't help but still be skeptical.
I think I'm on your level.
Yeah.
And my observation of this is that I think that there's You know that statistic that says that, and I don't know what the exact percentage is, between 5 and 7%. Folks say that, we only use about 5 to 7% of the capacity of our brain. Mm-hmm. So, there's a massive amount of additional capacity in our brain. It's an incredible piece of our body. And people say that some folks just have a 1% more. There's different spectrums in that. And I remember reading a book many years ago called Blink, which was around, as human beings, we are an instinctive species, mm-hmm. and we instinctively know things quite quickly. And I think this is true around, you meet someone and you know instantaneously whether you're going to like them or not. And, it takes time to validate that, but we are instinctive as people. I think there are obviously a lot of fraudsters in that world, but there are also some genuine people. And I think that they are tapping into something that allows them to be more instinctive about what has been, so a lot of the stuff is that we're portraying, we are, messaging, mm-hmm. and they're actually able to receive those messages, mm-hmm. versus there being something more weirder. Does that am I making any sense at all?
Yes, I think there is something there. Every so often, I'll have a dream about something that then comes to fruition. Not to say that maybe I've missed my calling and I should go and pursue.
You dreamed that you're going to do a podcast.
Yeah, but so I guess I can see, and I see it in others, in some of the other people that I know, where they have that innate ability of that sixth sense. And I think if you can figure out the right way to tap into it,
yeah,
then it's there. But I have a hard time figuring out how that works.
No, exactly. Yeah. Then you see these programs that I'm forced to watch at home.
Yes.
That my wife watches, and you think, okay, if it's genuine now, they've had no pre-intel, how do they know some of this stuff? And I'm a natural skeptic. I think they know someone must have fed them. There must be an earpiece, or so I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. But then I did go and see Darren Brown live once.
Okay.
And it's astonishing because he talks about that it's tricks. There are tricks. There are ways to do this. And so, I've no idea, but fascinated.
Yes.
So did one of your wishes, are you able to say what came true? The dog?
I won't say what, but it was actually something work related that she predicted and said something would happen. And within a few weeks, it did.
Was it a good month or a bad month?
No comment.
Ask Ajit anything!
This is now your opportunity to ask me anything.
Yes. I would like to ask if you could tell your 16-year-old self a secret of knowing what you know now, what would it be?
Buy stocks and shares in Apple. It's a good question. I think I would tell my 16-year-old self, and I'm not going to do the trite things about, the family and the relationships, because I think that's all worked out really well and I'm very happy with that. I think I'd tell my 16-year-old self to just be more thoughtful and don't wish time away. Because I think, when I was that young, and even for the next 20 years, you're moving at such a pace and you want to get somewhere quite quickly that, sometimes I think, did I forget to enjoy and relish every moment? So I would tell my 16-year-old self to, continue to do all the great things that have happened and to continue to be positive and energetic and hungry and not unfortunately physically, maybe control the weight bit, maybe, but continue to be hungry for, many things, but to also enjoy them, deeply as they go along. And I think the biggest thing I'd link that to is my children who are fantastic and I've enjoyed them enormously. But there are times I wish I'd enjoy them even more because the time doesn't come back.
Well, you can start now. There's no time like the present.
They really don't want anything to do with me anymore. So, Andrea, you have been a fantastic guest, and I think, you're one of these people that you find a way, maybe it's all the sporting prowess that you have, the fantastic upbringing that you had, but your ability to, intellectually, curiously drive where you're going to go, create energy around yourself, tackle problems, is a delight to see. So thank you so much for being that sort of person.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Join us soon for another episode of Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara and learn more about the people behind the job titles at TAG.